The Katrina Project, hell and high water.
On August 29th, 2005, a devastating hurricane hit the Gulf Coast, shattering lives of coastal residents in Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Nearly 2,000 people died, but hundreds of thousands of Americans were impacted as they welcomed evacuees into the communities and homes. For those of us whose homes were not completely blown away after the shock wore off, our thoughts turned to helping our neighbor and healing our community in whatever way we could. Hurricane Katrina destroyed lives and leveled buildings, but it also generated a sense of hope, born out of the common fight for survival. Members of the Hattiesburg High School Theater Department, in cooperation with the University of Southern Mississippi's Department of Oral History and Cultural Heritage, conducted interviews with the evacuees and those whose lives have been impacted by Katrina. The play you're about to see is edited from those interviews, as well as from journal entries made by members and other found texts. On August 26th, with the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico fueling energy to the growing storm, Lieutenant General Russell Hodor, commander of Joint Task Force Katrina, confirmed that coastal states begin the process of requesting additional materials and forces from the Pentagon. Later that day, Governor Kathleen Blanco declares a state of emergency in Louisiana.
The latest update from the National Hurricane Center has predicted that New Orleans and the city's outlying areas are in direct path of hurricane. As Governor declared a state of emergency and wants to show everyone that very well coordinated evacuation is on plan if there's a direct threat.
The Red Cross is also keeping an eye on the growing storm. According to Red Cross's Renita Halster,
if this had been a Category 4 storm, the scale and scope of what we do would be much greater. We would have emergency vehicles already pre-positioned in the area, and Red Cross kitchens already designated and ready to open.
in the Gulf of Mexico, 6 oil companies operating offshore began to evacuate at least 150 people as a precaution, and the Air Force began to evacuate aircraft from at least 2 bases in the Florida Panhandle to minimize any possible damage. 24 hours later, on August 27th, Katrina is officially upgraded to Category 3 hurricane. Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour declares a state of emergency in Mississippi, while Governor Blanco asked President Bush to declare a federal emergency in Louisiana.
I have determined that this incident is of such a severity and magnitude that proper response is beyond the capabilities of the state and affected local governments, and that supplementary federal assistance is necessary to save lives, protect public health and safety, and to lessen or avert the threat of a disaster.
That same day, Governor Bush declares a federal emergency in Louisiana, giving the Departments of Homeland Security and FEMA full authority to respond to Katrina. 24 hours later, on August 28th, Katrina is officially upgraded to a Category 4 status. The last time that Louisiana or Mississippi saw landfall of a Category 4 was during Hurricane Camille in 1969. By 7 o'clock a.m., the storm was officially upgraded to Category 5 status, the worst and highest ranking on the Saffir-Simpson scale. At 9:30 a.m., the Times-Picayune reported that New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin issues the first ever mandatory evacuation of New Orleans.
I wish I had better news, but it looks like we're facing the storm most of us have feared. This is very serious. This is going to be an unprecedented event.
Mayor Nagin urged the 112,000 Orleanians who did not own cars to seek rides with family, friends, neighbors, and church members. For those without means to leave the city, they were urged to get to the Superdome as quickly as possible. For the time being, the Superdome would be used as a shelter of last resort for those who could not leave the city. The mayor added, however, that the availability of the dome to residents does not mean that going there is a good idea.
I want to emphasize, the first choice of every citizen should be to leave the city.
I'm Sergeant Larry Hampton of the Crescent City's Finest, Precinct 412. And hell yeah, storms bring out the worst in people. The streets were filled with chaos. Now, I know people were scared, but that ain't a reason to break into stores and steal 20 pairs of Nikes. As much as I'm sworn to uphold the law, I understand breaking into a grocery store and taking food, a pharmacy for first aid, or formula for your baby. But when your house is under 8 feet of water, what you gonna do with a 42-inch plastic? Look here, boy, we have a situation on our hands. The city knew something like this would happen a long time ago, and they did nothing to prepare for this. They just rolled the dice and hoped for the best. Wasn't no such thing as law and order. People were jumping over cops trying to take their guns. Stores were looted, private property trashed, and hell, half the police force quit because we were in the same boat as the people doing the looting. We lost everything.
Even my husband's grave. After the storm, my kids and I drove past Christian to the graveyard. We stood and looked at a field of horror. Tombstones were washed away, markers were gone, caskets were literally coming back out of the ground. I looked at my children, and they were afraid I was going to break. None of us were willing to admit that it was impossible to tell. It's very rare. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Some people say New Orleans got what it deserves. That this is God's vengeance on the modern-day sons of Gomorrah. They're wrong. Nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves hell and high water. This isn't an example of God's vengeance. It's an example of His love. People from all over the country have shown compassion and love. And for that, I'm grateful. And indeed, there were good people all over the country. Churches and organizations sent canned food, water, toys, clothing. School children shipped backpacks filled with supplies.
I got permission to skip high school for a week and go on a rescue mission in New Orleans. All my teachers were fired so that I could write a paper about what I saw and did. Sounds like a good deal, right? I arrived in New Orleans to the sounds of people screaming for help. But it was too dark and the police wouldn't let us go in. The next morning, while boating around the flooded city, I saw several children with their heads sticking out of the attic, dead. Those were the screams I had heard. I rescued a woman who handed me a bloody pillowcase. She told me her baby's son was in it. That while she was waiting to be rescued, she had given birth to him, and he died. I saw many bloated bodies float past my boat. I almost threw up from the smell. I watched many people drown. I saw a girl clinging to a piece of plywood, only to be pushed off by a man trying to save himself. I grabbed the little girl and pulled her onto the boat. But when we arrived at the evacuation site, I had no choice but to leave her there, even though there were no government officials to release her to, and the mobs of people fighting over supplies. I wanted to stay with that little girl. She was too small and too weak to take care of herself. I have to take medication to help me sleep now. I have yet to write that school report, and I'm really having a hard time. I know we couldn't save everyone, but I won't ever forget that screaming.
The nation watched in horror as events unfolded through the national media.
people are dying, and they're dying by the hundreds. I'm willing to bet you. Don't tell me 40,000 people are coming here. They're not here. It's too doggone late. Now do something and get out your ass and let's do something about the biggest damn crisis in the history of this country.
Everybody's in trouble or something. Go ahead, Mom.
I would just like to voice my disgust with human beings these days. My husband and I own a convenience store in the area, and we try in the effort of helping people get necessities to open up the day after the storm. But let me tell you what happened, what disgusts and appalls me. Do you know when we opened up what 60 or 70% of the people bought? Beer and cigarettes. Beer and cigarettes.
Oh, witch.
People have lost their homes. Lives have been uprooted. Lives lost. It's a time of crisis, for heaven's sake. And what do people want? Beer and cigarettes.
Maybe folks would just have their house blown away and need a cold one and a cigarette.
I'm so disgusted with people. I could just scream. I mean, what's wrong with people? This world is just a dark place.
I had gone up to the Exxon station when these niggas, African Americans, tried to break line. Well, I immediately walked up to them and said, "Who the hell do you think you are trying to break line? We've been standing here for 3 hours."
My sister is a diabetic, and I've been getting her insulin and keeping it cold since I was 12 years old.
He came up with some cock and bull story about his sister, how she was in the hospital and he needed gas real quick. When I said, "I don't care if she's Queen of Sheba or Queen Latifah. You gotta wait in line like the rest of us."
Damn all the people at the pump. I had to take care of my sister.
When I said that, he bowed back and popped me in the chest. We had us a free-for-all at the gas station.
Everything ain't black and white.
As hard as my husband and
Asian under here.
Are you naked under here?
Yes. And she just got a good glimpse.
Happy, yes, happily happy, and thoroughly satisfied.
Crank the emo kid.
Mom, I feel you're not,
Emo kid up in this. Watch me cut.
Watch me cry. Watch me crank that emo kid and slip my wrists and die now.
Watch me.
You crank that emo kid. You crank that emo kid. You crank that emo kid. You crank that emo kid.
Ninja Turtles. And I was like, Dylan, I'm not feeling good, you know, I'm gonna go lay down. He goes, yeah, you can sleep, but then we're gonna play. Cause you're home from school. I was like, but Mommy's not feeling good. And then he goes, Mom, are you feeling better? He goes, you want me to kiss you? I was like, oh, yes, but no. Yeah. Bam! No.
What was the track of the cycle?
Tony, pull up your pants. Are you sagging? Look at that sag.
No, I don't do it on purpose.
Well, he sat down. He sat down and they fell. But you're like showing your butt. It's like below your butt. No, those are up. Those are like farther.
That is not up. That is how it always is.
You pull those pants up.
This is how it normally is. It's like right there. This is. Wait, what am I saying?
I can't believe I just helped you.
Help me. We killing folks. We cutting throats. Hello. I'd like to play a game with
Where's the other to the door?
You guys
Walking all the way across the stage. Go to the nearest exit. Wherever you are, where, you know, if you see the alleys coming in, your vocal inflection with the, you know, I came into them screaming.
My snake is like a desert.